Marriage has about it this essence of the eternal. In fact, I was just talking with a couple the other day, and they were gushing about how they had met and how fate and destiny had brought them together and how they felt like all of heaven was behind this thing. It's got a feeling of serendipity to it. And the reason I think is because God is the author of your love story. Not only that, but doesn't it feel like there's something eternally real about it? Doesn't it feel like we've been retelling this story over and over and over again? The story of romance, the story of love, of partner meeting partner. Why is that? It's because God is trying to tell a greater story. He's trying to tell the story of Christ and the church. In fact, every day that your marriage makes it, you are declaring to a dying and hopeless world that love, in fact, wins in the end, and that God is going to accomplish His mission of bringing heaven to earth. That's why marriage exists. Man, the goal of marriage is to bring heaven to earth. Man, so why is it so hard? Right? Why is the divorce rate? Man, even in the church, right? The place where God's love is supposed to flow freely. Why is it still over 40%? Why can't we get this thing right? Well, I need you to understand this fact. Your marriage has an enemy, a very real enemy. And he has come to steal, kill, and destroy. He does not care about your heritage. He does not care about the love story that's happened between you. Man, I mean, think about it. He comes after the first marriage before the champagne of the honeymoon has even been poured. He's after it. Why? Because he's never felt that acceptance and belonging. In fact, the promise of the gospel marriage is this, that you would be naked and without shame before your spouse. That you would be known and fully known, the deepest, darkest parts of your soul and heart exposed to somebody who says, I see all that crap and I'm still here to stay. You see, the enemy's never had that. He's never had that acceptance or belonging. And so he's coming after you and yours. And you need to understand, he will not stop. He doesn't care if he has to dig into your childhood wounds. He doesn't care if he needs to bring up the insecurities of your past and your failures. He doesn't care what lies he needs to spin about your spouse and the legacy that they have brought. He doesn't care. In fact, all he cares about is destroying the marriage relationship, because he understands when the marriage wins, he loses. You see, this is how God's kingdom comes to earth. This is how we realize heaven on earth. It's one marriage at a time. And listen, God has brought you your spouse for 60-something years, right? We don't look that far ahead, but that's God's point of view. 60, 70 years. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jam these two together, and through the excavation of their heart and the realization of the darkness of their heart and the shining of the light on that, through the threshing floor of conflict, I am gonna bring forth Christ-like leaders. And as those Christ-like leaders love each other, they're going to bring up some kids, or they're going to surround themselves with single people who are going to love like they love, like Christ loves. One family, one marriage at a time, impacting other families and marriages at a time, that impacts more communities and more cities and more nations, until finally all of heaven is realized. The enemy knows this, and he's dead set against you. I mean, think about it for a second. This is the idea of the generational curse, right? The generational curse is a poison that the enemy latches onto your legacy, your daddy's daddy, daddy's daddy's daddy, your mommy's 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 mommy. He latches that thing up and he spins it into this lie that says this is who you have to become. But when you get married, you insert that variable that the enemy couldn't see coming. You insert that other bloodline. You insert that serendipitous eternal reality of what God is doing in and through you. And you see your enemy soundly defeated. You cut off those generational curses. You step into your identity, which of course brings destiny, and then you can build a dynasty. This is the promise of the gospel marriage. And I'm not okay to stand idly by any longer as the enemy consumes everyone around me, as he breaks marriages apart, as he lets people get almost there, almost naked and without shame, and then rips them apart to leave them both more broken and more broke than they were even before. I'm not okay with it, and so I'm ready to wage war against the enemy and fight for the gospel marriage. And if the gospel marriage promises that we can be naked and without shame, man, let's fight every day until we see that reality